Hi, you've reached the High Fashion Hotline.
Hi, I make sure my family's always stylish, and all I want in return are those 3 little words.
Thank you, Mom.
Nope.
All on sale?
Yes.
Go to Old Navy.
Old Navy?
Yep, get 30% off your entire purchase at Old Navy's Thank You event.
30% off everything, even jeans, sweaters, and jackets?
30% off all of it, and Old Navy card members get 40% off at Old Navy and OldNavy.com.
I heard that.
High Fashion, Old Navy. Valid 10/11 to 10/15. Excludes in-store clearance, gift cards, register lane items, jewelry today only, and 2-day only deals. 40% off are subject to credit approval. See stores for details and exclusions.
You're tuning in to the Goldilocks presentation of the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show with Anthony Rodriguez. Anthony Rodriguez, aka Walking Crow, found transformational energy healing through a personal search into healing and was transformed by this experience. He made the decision to pursue training and has since become a certified energy healing practitioner with an emphasis on working with clients in recovery from addiction. His willingness to be open and listen has allowed him to be of service to many who seek a peaceful, serene, and healthier body, mind, and spirit. Call in now if you would like to speak with Anthony. The call-in number is 713-955-0332. Enjoy this transformational and healing show.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to another Tuesday edition of the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show. My name is Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow, and I am your host. It's a beautiful day here at the studios in Southern California. And but before we get started, I'm saging the room as I speak, and I'm asking Great Spirit Creator to clear the room and clear the energies, unknown or otherwise, in this space, that they would be good, and I would be an open channel of goodness and healing, and that Ian would be an open channel of goodness and healing and help for those out there who are wanting to hear what it is that we have to say. I hope that this microphone, that the phone lines and all the channels moving outward, vibrating outward would be clear, and that the switchboard that Tiffany White Sage Woman works from would be cleared as well, because I already know she's clear. She's just that kind of gal. Anyway, so good afternoon and welcome. And wow, what a busy couple of weeks it's been. I want you to know that I think it's been over a year since I've been broadcasting on Blog Talk Radio from Goldilocks Productions, and Goldilocks Productions is celebrating 2 years. So, send them letters, send them emails, listen to all the shows that are on. I want to thank Tiffany White Sage Woman for allowing us a channel and a place to come and carry our medicine. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you to you and your husband. And and saying that, I will not be on the air next week, but don't worry, I'll be back the week after that in a big way. So, enjoy today's show. So, and talking about today's show, my special guest, my very, very special guest, Ian Morris, is the founder of Listen and Smile and Wake magazine, and has experienced more in life in his 39 years that his 39 years might suggest. Ian is a multi-instrumentalist, poet, artist, and intuitive healer who has been working in the creative arts field for over 20 years. That's a long time. That's way longer than I've been doing it, that's for sure. Please know that Ian is happy to answer any questions you may have. He is excited about this personal journey with what he considers sacred sounds and frequencies, and is excited to share it with you. Now, I got to tell you, Ian and I became friends through Ingrid Turner, go figure. Ingrid's connected to everybody like I am. And Ian and I have struck up a very special relationship over the last year plus. And, and I got to tell you, I listen to Ian's music all the time, and when I go to bed at night, I put it on. When I wake up, I turn it on, and if I'm in the car, I'm not in the mood for something rocky or ultra veggie, and I put on Ian's music, which is very healing. So let's bring Ian on and say good afternoon to Ian. And Ian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Anthony.
Sure thing. Well, thank you for saying yes to my request for coming on and being a guest. And I understand that you have been ill lately. You had the flu and you were down. You're feeling better, I hope.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better, actually.
All right. I'm glad to hear that. So I would just tell the audience or sharing with the audience that, I listen to your music. I go to bed to it. I roll over at night. I can hear it playing. Whatever track it's playing, I can hear it. And even in the car, I listen to it when I'm not, busy rocking out or something. And I have to tell you, I'm always conscious when it's on. I'm always in a conscious state of what I'm listening to. And that's not always true with music for me, because sometimes the music is just, it's just white noise, just as a filler. But this isn't the case with your music. And I'm really glad that that we crossed each other's paths, and I was able to experience your music, because I was experimenting and listening to binaural beats a few years back, and I just didn't. It was just like sometimes it was sometimes like eating dirt. And but you have a different take on it. You do some different things with it, and tell us a little bit how you got started doing that, and really what motivates you to keep moving in this direction with regards to your music.
Okay, yeah. So my first real literature that I picked up and read was a book called The Healing Power of Sound by a Dr. Mitchell Gaynor. And that book had a really profound effect on me, and it made me, really curious. And I started diving into all things sound. After reading that book, it was such an inspiration to me. And it's actually a book about a very clinical mainstream doctor who treated a monk with a heart condition. And the monk changed this doctor's life, exposing him to the singing bowls and meditation, and, just really they struck up a friendship, and he saw a lot of hurt that was in the monk. The monk was given to the monastery because his parents couldn't afford to keep him. They, basically had the monastery adopt, the child because they just couldn't afford it. And so there was a lot of pain that the monk was working through, and that, life experience. And so the doctor started working with him and helping him to release those pains. And in exchange, the monk kind of taught him about meditation and the singing bowls, and it changed the doctor's life. And I think in my own life, that book was really a big connector for me, because there's been a lot of amazing people that have come into my life that's changed my life, and those crucial moments at, different points in the timeline. And so that book really resonated, and I moved forward in sound in a big way. And so what I started noticing was I, was looking, YouTube and, all of the free material that was available. And I said, man, this stuff is so cool. And I was really resonating with it. But as a musician and kind of a creative, artistic person, I wanted to explore, like, what else can we do with this? And so, I started experimenting with frequency, and, the questions I started asking myself is, why is this so powerful? And one of the questions, was answered in meditation, that the consistency of the tone, being 30 minutes, being an hour long, it was more than just a pop song that you hear for 2 or 3 minutes and then it goes off. And so when I started making my own music and trying to find that more creative dressing to put around the tones, I started blending different frequencies with the tones, like 528, the frequency of love. I would take like a mid octave and a bass octave and blend them together, so you had kind of a tritone, with that same healing frequency, but you were getting a little more bass and a little more fullness, to that track. And then I would dress the melody and the music around that, and I started seeing that was a very powerful combination for myself and my own healing, but also in family and friends that would take the time to, sit down and listen to some of the creations I was making. And I started seeing profound effects in the people that were listening. People started crying and laughing and, experiencing all this release work. And I said, we're on to something here. There's something in the way that this is being mixed and put together. And so for the next couple of years, that's what I did, was I explored all things sound, and just tried a lot of different experimentation and trial and error, and just listening to the feedback of, clients and family and friends that were experiencing it with me. So it's kind of, it's a big process, everyone's involved. So yeah.
Well, cool. And it's my understanding, or I've heard you talk about your own personal healing journey through your music as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when I in 2011, I was 308 pounds. So I was a big guy, and I also had struggled a lot with dyslexia most of my life. And when I really, about 8 years ago, when I started getting into the sound, it was always just kind of not a full life choice commitment. It was just kind of like what you were saying, kind of background, or that's really nice to listen to. But, in 2011, it was, I was in kind of dire straits. I was in and out of the hospitals, and they were telling me all kinds of different diagnoses that were kind of grim. And I just went through this process of a kind of an awakening where I realized they were not going to do it for me. The mainstream doctors and the system was just failing. I had gone about a year in pain, and they could not figure out what was wrong. So I started, really diving into the holistic, getting into the herbs and, food combinations, and getting into different meditations, vocal toning, and getting into sound healing using binaural beats. And, that's when I started really creating this in a major way and working with it on a daily basis. And within a year of doing that, I had lost over 115 pounds in weight. I changed my lifestyle as far as the food I was eating, which I felt like was really possible through the frequencies kind of unlocking different pathways in my brain, opening up curiosity, consciousness. I started asking myself questions. Do you really want to be a fat dude the rest of your life? Do you want to be healthy and happy? And, I started answering yes to those questions. And I think the music had a really profound effect on breaking the old systems up. And so, yes, like all the music I was making, I was listening to it on a daily basis and just really using and utilizing it for my own healing. And I would say it took me about 2 years. I did a lot of emotional clearing, a lot of spiritual clearing, a lot of weight loss. And the biggest thing that was a real surprise to me was with my dyslexia, it was really hard to read and retain information. And it got to the point where I was reading about 6 to 10 books a week and connecting all the dots, talking about, the information in an intelligent way, and holding conversations where people, friends and family were like, man, what happened to you? Like, where have you been? You're talking so much faster, and it's like you're smarter or something, So it was like there was a really big effect that not only I could see, but the people around me could see. So it was really, when you experience that kind of, outcome with the work, and you see it in a real personal way like that, it's easy to be really passionate about it and want to share it with other people and, say, hey, check this out, see what this does for you, So.
It's amazing the connections that you and I already have a really strong connection, but right now, as you started to tell your story, I just broke into tears because in 2011, it was when I came into my awakening, and I was 238 pounds, and I've been 160 pounds for the last 5, almost 6 years. Mm-hmm. And, similar thing. I mean, it's funny. I got into the band, and I posted a video over the weekend in Mexico City. They were playing at a local music festival, and I showed up, and I remembered why I did that, why I played music and how music affects me. And in the band, I play shekere, just that simple down. Well, my drumming is no different from that. And there's no it's no kidding that there's such a connection for me. But just the idea of hearing you talk about your awakening in 2011 and finding a way to heal yourself and coming into your healing. And I'm sitting here saying what I always talk about is the Me Too experience. Me Too, I too have had a similar, not the experience, but a similar experience with regard to the weight loss and coming into my voice and coming into, you know, there's guys that wait a lifetime to play music the way I did in LA. They wait a lifetime and it never happens. My father was one of those guys. He died with that dream. I don't have to die with a dream. I lived the dream and I'm living the dream now. And so were you. And boy, I just, you know, when I hear it and it touches me that deeply in my relationship to the story, man, I'm a ball of water. I'm a ball of water anyways. I'm a Cancer Pisces, so. But wow, that's powerful. That was powerful for me, and I hope the listeners understand that. You know, I have to say this: when we awaken, it isn't like we awaken, and you correct me if I'm wrong, and it's easy right away. There's a lot going on in back of us and in front of us and on either side of us and above us and below us. It's just sometimes it's way more than I'd like to handle, but it's my path. And I'm sure it's been yours as well. And, you know, because I play music, I understand why I understand your musical journey. Mm-hmm. You know, and the music and the healing path that I took, and I understand it completely 100%. And I want to just remind the listeners, you're listening to the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show with Anthony Rodriguez Walking Crow and my very, very special guest, Ian Morris from Listening to Smile and Wake Magazine. So, you know, Ian, what is something we should know about your music? Everything.
So, well, CDs monthly, so I think that's a little different. I haven't really found anyone else who's doing that in quite the same way. So I worked with Timothy Halloran, who is an astrologer that was a understudy to Kai Pacha, and a lot of people know Kai Pacha from YouTube. He's a pretty big astrologer. He's probably got 70,000 followers or something like that now. It might be more. But he's a really cool, you know, older hippie guy and just really does these really awesome astrology videos. But I found his understudy. He's from Augusta, Georgia, I think. I know he's from Georgia. I think it's Augusta. It might be. Anyways, I just really love his energy and his videos and the way that he really put a personal touch on the astrology each month. And so last year, I reached out to him and asked him if he would work with me with my music and that we could make, you know, a yearly forecast and go through month by month and figure out the astrology energies that were going to be coming through so that we knew kind of what people were going to be working with. And I started setting up the frequencies each month to help us acclimate, myself and everyone else who was listening, to those monthly energies that were coming in. And so the music is frequency minded, which is, you know, the main focus for me are the frequencies. And then the songs are dressed around those tones and frequencies, which are pulled from the Solfeggio scale, which is, you know, comes from the Gregorian chants, and the Schumann resonance, which is the electromagnetic pulse of the earth, the heartbeat of the earth. And then there's a lot of channeled frequencies that come through in meditation. You know, each month I meditate before I start the process of the recordings, and I call on, you know, people, family and friends that have passed over to work with me, and, you know, angels and guides, and I just kind of do this little ceremony, you know, to basically, just like you did at the beginning of your show, to clear my energy, to become a channel, to be a kind of co-creator in the music each month, and to play my part, and to also be open to, you know, things that come through that know better than me, you know. And so, you know, it's a real process. It's very sacred to me. It's very powerful. You know, I have a lot of friends and people that will come to these small groups, you know, my affiliate programs that use the music around the world to host these sound baths and meditations with the music. And, you know, people are like, man, this was so powerful for me. And, you know, it's interesting because I'm writing and recording and mixing all of the music. And so on a monthly basis, you know, I'm creating anywhere from 6 to 20, you know, new tracks, because I do a lot of custom tracks for people that want to make their own meditation CDs and stuff like that. So I'm just bathed in these frequencies on a monthly basis, and sometimes I have to find in my in my head, I have to say, like, man, why does everything seem so heavy? And I'm just like, man, I've been bathing in these frequencies for about 10 days straight now, so I need to have, you know, some downtime. I need to have some time in nature, and you know, and it's just a process. It's so it's very sacred, you know. It's very co-created, and it's just I'm very honored to be a part of the process and to share it with the people. So it's just a special process.
Well, you know, earlier about saying yes, you know, and I did a video using your music, and I can't remember which song I used. And it was literally a video about when will you say yes and start saying no to the things you no longer want in your life. And and there are no coincidences. I'm sure not a believer in that, because I'm one of those affiliates of using your music. And when I did that video, the music for me was so powerful, because I like to, I'll sit and listen to a piece and edit it in my head to find in my jumping off points and my exit points in different phrasings of the music, like a singer. Yeah. And I use the music in that way. And when when you said that 5 minutes ago, or whenever it was you said it, I thought, how powerful. I mean, it's you know, I want to say I don't know this, but and I talk about connection, you know, and there's a lot of people that I've had on this show I'm really connected to, and I'm really amazed at how connected I am with some people. But when you say that, and then I realize I've already done that, and I said the same thing that you said, I'm like, there it is again. There's that connection, and there's things that I just can't deny. And, you know, and this video and another video that I did using your music, in my view, might have used the same music, got looked at very, very minimally by the people who actually listen to the stuff that I do. And I was really surprised. Yeah, and I thought, well, is it too dark? Is it too strong? Is it too what? You know, and I think sometimes something that's different scares people, you know. Yeah. And they don't know what to do with it. And I guess that was the case for me. You know, I get scared at first, and I'm like, no, this is cool, man. I can handle this, you know, and I move forward. Yeah. But not everybody is on the path that you're on. Not everybody is on the path that I'm on. Not everybody is on the path that last week's guest, Angela, is on. When that woman talks, it's like, holy cow. You know, you drop everything and stop to listen. You're the same way. When I'm listening to music, you know, there's nothing else going on. I shut the door in the office that I'm in, and I don't want anybody bothering me. You know, when I'm doing my own videos, I'm out someplace away from everybody, and I'm in my own zone. I'm in my own frequency with the earth, with Mother Earth and Spirit, you know. And and then I started noticing how connected that we actually are to the things that are around us, and I never noticed that before 6 years ago. I couldn't get it. I had no relationship to anything, and less a relationship to myself, you know. Yeah. And it's amazing how. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. What I was going to say is, what I think is really interesting is, in health in general, the health field, like when you talk about smoothies, there's two schools, you know, there's the people who want it to taste good, and then there's the people who view it as medicine, and they accept the taste, and then they get used to the taste, and they're actually drinking healthier smoothies because it's not full of sugar and, you know, fake GMOs or, you know, chemicals that are not natural. You know, they're doing pure raw fruits and veggies in their smoothies, and they're, you know, doing things that they know are going to help repair their body. And in that same way, people that go to the gym, you know, if the gym was easy, then you're not going to really be breaking down and rebuilding muscle and having the change in your body that you want unless you're putting in pain, you know, because there's going to be pain and it's going to be hard. It's not going to be fun. But in that 2-3 months or 4 month period, you're going to look at your body and say, wow, I've done some major work on this physical physique, right? Yeah. And for me is the approach with this meditation music is, you know, the way the CDs go each month, the first track on each CD is a little mid-tempo or upbeat. Sometimes it's Native American like Pow-wow Drum. Sometimes it's electronic music. But what I got when I first started doing this is people said, well, that's not really a meditation track. And I said, you're right, it's not a meditation track. But what I'm asking you to do is have an open mind and listen to the music because there's still frequencies in there. And the process that I'm trying to get you guys to understand is almost a very ceremonial process. You know, in a lot of tribes, when people would get together, whether it was a celebration or whether it was a ceremony of, you know, clearing or, you know, rebirth or becoming a man, you know, the different phases and the different timelines that they use these ceremonies for, almost always drumming was involved. And that was usually the start of the circle was drumming. And they would have these very powerful, loud drums that you would traditionally say, that doesn't really sound like meditation music, but it served a purpose. What it was doing was it was shaking off the bad spirits. It was warding off all the people that were coming to the group with heavy emotions, and they were clearing space. And then you would get into these, you know, phases where they would do some vocal toning or chanting, and you would get set up in these kind of trance-like states so that they could be open to channel, be open to the ancestors' communication, be open to the plant medicine, be open to all the different things that were included in these ceremonies. And these groups that I'm trying, you know, to put together in that way over this last year was how can you make something subtly epic, meaning that people have profound experiences, but it doesn't have to rip their head off, and it doesn't have to be dark and heavy and just the focus of work, you know. So I really worked over the last 2 years to make the process where there was really something for everyone and something for each person in each phase. Like it was set up as a sound journey and kind of like a shamanic journey in a sense, where the first song is just a mood enhancer. It's just a clearing. And then when you drop into that second song, that's a meditation, the dynamics between the first song and the second song make the second song seem even more relaxing and even more chill. And as the CD goes on, it downshifts so that you're literally hypnotizing, like hypnosis. You're dropping people in, just like when you go to a hypnotherapist and they start talking, hey, Anthony, how are you doing today? And then they'll start slowing down their speech. They'll put some pauses in there. They start vocal phrasing, and they really start changing, you know, gears of your mind where they're downshifting your brainwave patterns through speech and through the pauses that they put in there. And so I was trying to emulate something very similar with these circles that we were doing, these groups, but making it a little more mainstream so that people didn't have to understand ceremony or understand what shamanic or, you know, a shaman's journey or a sound journey. It was just really supposed to be pleasing, subtly epic, and just something that could be accessible. So, you know, that was the attempt in doing all that with that music.
Cool. 713-955-0332. Give us a call and ask Ian any questions you'd like to ask. And I just reposted that particular video, and it was the song that I used was The Equation of Us, and that is such a cool song. And our friend over in Ireland was playing it yesterday, I believe, and it caught my attention. I had to stop while I was driving and listen to what he was going to say because of the music he was playing.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song is a mixture of Spanish, Native American, and Chinese music, all blended together in that song. So.
Wow.
Yeah, and the title is called The Equation of Us, so it was just kind of an interesting, combination of music being put together.
So how do you come up with the ideas, sorry about that, of to try these different combinations? I mean, what motivates you to do that?
Well, I think because I've played, the very first band I was ever in was a punk rock band, and then I went on and played in 2 metal bands. I started playing music when I was 17 years old, and I was playing bass and guitar, and it was just neat to be playing and to be playing with friends and to play shows. But as I started evolving musically and maturing as a person, I started listening to the Beatles and Tower of Power and John Coltrane, Miles Davis, and I started exploring new realms of music as a musician, and I started playing in cover bands, and I started playing in folk and world music bands, and then I got into hip hop and electronic music. And so I was really fortunate that my dad was a musician just like yours, and my dad also passed away. The story goes he was on tour in Texas, and my mom, let him know that she was pregnant, and so my dad and mom had this talk where he gave up music and got a real job and supported the family and did that whole thing. And so he always played guitar, and he taught me a lot about blues guitar, and that was some of his favorite music was blues. But my dad was really talented. He played probably 12, 14 different instruments. And, he could play saxophone and harmonica, violin, bass drums, guitar, piano, just all kinds of stuff. And so I grew up with a lot of music around me. And, I play 30 instruments now around that, anything with strings and, a lot of different world music instruments. And it's because of his influence and because he showed me so much music. He was constantly showing me different music, and I was really fortunate to be exposed to so much music. And I really think that that's, why I'm so willing and hear it in my head. When I'm writing a song, it's very much a co-creation, and I think that, I'll start with a guitar part, but then I'll hear all the other parts come in my head. And so I'll just know and be able to pull from all those different experiences and bands and, music projects that I've played in. It just allows me to kind of, go between all those lines and combine it all together,
Yes, I know. I'm a songwriter. I'm a poet and a songwriter as well. I don't put that out too much, but I do. I have written quite a few songs. And one of the things that I've learned how to do, because I've listened to the way people write songs, is to tell the story. Not to match words, but to tell the story. But one of the things that really caught my attention about my own ability, because I have some musical training, I can read music, but I was never taught to write. I'm not a theory or anything like that. But when I write a song, it already has melody. You know what I mean? And I wasn't, and I don't think you can teach that. I remember watching Amadeus and Mozart talking about, he just hears it in his head. It comes out the way he hears, the way he writes it is the way it is. And that's happened with me as well. I like, where did that come from? And what I realize is the work that I do now, the things, the way I see people, the way I see things, the way I hear things. So it didn't just start happening 6 years ago. This started happening almost 25, 30 years ago with me, when I started to notice, but I didn't really pay attention. I should say that. And to know that, potentially I have another source of healing for people, because that's what I'm hearing from you. For me, is I have another source of helping people heal that doesn't have anything. It does have everything to do with my hands, vibration, voice, expression. I was gonna say that it didn't, but it's a matter of fact that it does. So I was going to be incorrect. But thank you for bringing me into my awareness, Ian.
Yeah.
I want to remind the listeners that you're listening to the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine Show with myself, Anthony Rodriguez Walking Crow, and my very, very special guest, Ian Morris, from Listening to Smile and Awake Magazine. Now, tell me about Wake Magazine, because I know I follow Wake Magazine, but there's so much stuff to follow now in the social media arena. Yeah. It's hard to keep up with any of it, and there's very little that I actually read because it's just overwhelming. But tell me about Wake Magazine and how that came about.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. So when I got sick and was going through all that for probably 6 months, I wasn't able to work, and I was trying to think of ways that I could utilize my skills and generate some income and still do the things that I love. And so the online magazine was something that I could do with just a laptop. And so I started from home and just started sending some emails to some people and said, hey, I'm putting together a magazine that's going to focus on creativity and spirituality, because I think they're one and the same. And so, we dubbed it the Home of Artistic Enlightenment, and we just wanted to put poets, musicians, and artists in the same realm as, healers and holistic centers, yoga instructors, and kind of the holistic field. And so we started that magazine, and within about a year and a half, we started, getting some, slowly we started getting in some advertising and some people supporting it in that way. And then we had, I think it was 28 writers from around the world that were writing with us and contributing in some form or fashion each month. And we had, at one point, it was about 25 to 28,000 visitors a month, like in that realm, for pretty consistently. And so that magazine went for about 2.5 years. And in late 2014, 2015 there, I let it go because I just, I was doing everything. I was doing the editing and the uploading and the proofing and, just everything, and putting all the pictures in the stories and, populating it. And so at the same time, I, had started listening to Smile, and listening to Smile was really taking off. And so I had to it was that tough fork in the road where I reached out to some friends and asked some people, hey, would you enjoy helping out with Wake? And there was a lot of people that said they wanted to, but we just couldn't get it together. So I had to make that decision to let the magazine go. And that was really tough because I had, worked really hard on that, and it was really a birthing process, But I have to say that just like everything else in life, all my experience in the nonprofit world and, that I did with before the magazine, I ran a nonprofit for 10 years called Homemade Genius, where I worked with underserved kids with music and art lessons. All of that experience from the nonprofit and from the magazine has rolled into listening to Smile, and I'm utilizing all these different experiences and knowledge and, lessons learned and applying it with this new company. And it's really helped to, we have 58 affiliates worldwide, Australia, the UK, 12 states in the United States. We went into Canada, we're going into Mexico. We're growing, and a lot of those connections were actually made through Wake Magazine. And so it's just, it's really interesting how life will work that way. the outside, people could say, well, that was a failure, or this didn't achieve what you wanted it to. But in the big picture, it did everything it needed to do. It connected people, it served a purpose in its time, and it gave me a lot of lessons and connections that helped me grow, my life work in a different way than I even could see it at the time, So.
Sometimes I look at we follow each other on social media, and I just look at us and I'm like, we're just we're regular guys.
Yeah.
We're just regular guys, and then I sit there again and I think, no, we're not just regular guys. We look like regular guys who are almost hiding out, And the fact is, you and I, people like you and I, and the Ingrids of the world, and the Tiffany White Sage Women's of the world, and everybody that is involved in an affiliate of yours or in with us on social media is living their lives out loud. I think probably more out loud than they ever have in their lifetime. And but after a lifetime of being diseased or sick or stymied by whatever has happened in life, and it's such a pleasure. It's such a, man, I'm telling you, I was told to be quiet as a child.
Yeah.
All constantly, be quiet, stop banging, stop making noise, be quiet. And, when I first started the show, I used to thank those people all the time and say, thank you for telling me to be quiet because you're the reason that I do what I do.
Yeah.
How was it in school being musically minded, or I'm going to say musically minding, because you're a gold mine, and you're constantly mining your craft and what you do. How was it going through school? Were you playing music in school, and was that a problem for you?
I didn't really start playing music until I was 17. And I was listening to music, but not in a big way. In school, I was into sports. I played baseball. I was actually, when I was in 9th grade and 10th grade, I had like Georgia Tech and Florida State and all these different schools looking at me like scouts. And, I really thought that's what I was going to do, was play college baseball. And I was a pitcher and I could throw really hard. And, it was my whole life. I had spent most of my life playing baseball. So my focus was different. And I think it served its purpose because I hated school. I didn't like people telling me what to do. I didn't like busy work. I would question constantly everything that we had to do, like what point of this, what am I learning, how am I going to use this in life? And if it seemed pointless, I just didn't want to do it. And so sports served the purpose of helping me to make the grades that I had to make, to play that game, to get through. But school was very challenging because, I remember my mom talking to me saying that I've always questioned everything. She said when I was 7 years old, I would say, well, if God made Jesus, then who made God? And then if somebody made God, like who made that person? And where'd the universe come from? And like, it's like,
oh, you're that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, like 7, 8 years old, just questioning everything. And they talk a lot about indigo children, that they come to disrupt systems. And I do believe that I, have all the qualities and attributes of a indigo child, where I fought my parents, all authority figures. I was at war with myself, constantly questioning everything and challenging everything. And, as you mature and you go through your awakening, you learn more how to cope with those things. But I think that we've all played our part in kind of changing the world and disrupting systems and challenging the status quo. I think that's why we're all here right now.
Yeah, the status quo. I laugh at it. It's like, I have a, what they call it, a doppelganger somewhere, and I think he's living in New England. And I was that kid. The question, I was always being slapped and ears pulled and arms pulled, and hit, and because I grew up during the 60s, during what I call the big lie, bigger than it wasn't as big as now, but but I didn't believe what they tell me. I couldn't believe what they tell me. I went to parochial school, Catholic school, and they were teaching us things. And then I would go home at night and watch Geraldo Rivera and Hugh Downs crawl through Cambodia or wherever the hell they were. And then I'd watch it. We'd flip a channel to with Penn State, and I'm watching the marches on D.C. and everything, marches everywhere. And I'm like, I got to experience through black and white, through an RCA Victor, the assassination of of a senator and a president as a kid. And it's like, by the time I was 10, I was so jaded. It was just like, you couldn't convince me of anything. And I was angry, and I was resentful, and I was ticked off at 10 years old. And it's like, man, I did not want to be that kid. I did not want to be that kid, but that's the kid that I was. And then one day my father walked in with a pair of congas, and it changed everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It changed everything.
Yeah. Well, just to not go into this too much, but, that same kind of thing played a huge part in my awakening in about 2001, 2002, when you start questioning, 9/11 and the motives behind everything generated behind, after 9/11, you start really seeing the ill intention of your own country, doing these things in other countries that are just, I mean, in my opinion, honestly, no different than Nazi Germany. I mean, you're going in and taking people's resources, you're doing these things. And so as a, young person, you start waking up and, realizing that, it's not what it appears. And so as you're going through this, you start seeing and calling out all the things that are wrong, the banking industry, the health industry, the, pharmaceutical industry. You go through all these things and you learn, like, man, things are not what I thought they were. And so there's that defining moment in the awakening. Part of the awakening is realizing that something's not right here. That's whether we're going through a sickness or we're going through a loss of money or a intimate relationship, or we're seeing things around the world and we're realizing the outcome it's having on our emotional state. All of these are signs of something's just not right here, and I need to make a shift. And what is it? And so for me, I spent a few years in that zone of being angry and bitter, and I would go back and forth with people about politics and all the different things that were going on. But what I woke up to, ascending, past that point was one day I woke up and realized, like, hey, I'm a loving, compassionate, sensitive guy, and I'm not using any of that right now. I'm just angry and upset and, just really depressed. Like, this is, and so if you only focus on what is wrong, that's what you're always going to end up with. And so part of this listening to Smile and moving forward in this company was because I came to that moment of realization of, like, what are you going to do about it? And then I started transferring that to people who were coming to me, like, oh my gosh, I don't vote anymore. And I said, okay, but what are you going to do about it? And and I started asking myself that question, what are you going to do about it? And I started really asking that question of everyone and everything around me. And in meditation and getting into those routines of eating healthier, having more self-care, doing meditation, vocal toning, and learning to let go. In that process, listening to Smile came forward and said, here's something that you can utilize all of your skills. You can help people. You can help yourself. You can make the world a better place in your own way. You can play your position and do what you're here to do. And you don't have to stick to all the things that are wrong. Now you can start focusing on what are you going to do about it, And so that was kind of my answer, and moving forward in my awakening was to realize this is what I can do.
A friend of mine, Tracy, she's a healer. We were out one night, and she asked me, so how do you deal, she wants to interview with me. She says, how do you deal with what's going on in the world right now? I said, I don't. It's none of my business. She says, how can you say that? I said, you can't, I said, you have to pay your rent this month? She said, yes. Don't you have to ask about simple things in her life that are right in front of her? She says, oh, that's a lot to deal with. I said, so why would you like expend energy on something on the picture when you can like actually do something about it from where you are right here, right now? You don't have to get your hands dirty. You just have to do what it is that you do in a way and share that with those around you and vibrate outward and hold space for those who don't know how to hold space or what that means. And we become a part of the collective consciousness in a bigger way than actually marching to Washington or whatever it is that people want to do. I said, because sometimes that creates more of a hindrance than a help. I said, I grew up with Chicano power. I don't know if you're familiar with Chicano power, but you know, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, everybody was raising their fist. Well, in my work, I can't shake your hand if I have a closed fist. I can't reach across the table. I can't extend an arm. I can't become a friend and hug you with a closed fist. There's no way possible. So that angry 10-year-old, which took another 40 years to unravel into who I am now, that's what, like you, that's what I've become. I've become that guy who I just can't get involved directly. I have to do something else, you know, and going to listen to music on Saturday may not seem like a big deal to some people, but I was surrounded by about 150 other people who were dancing and happy and having a good time. And that was a pretty damn good space to be in. And that's absolutely awesome, you know, and were there fires burning? Yes. Do people still need to be fed? Yes. Are they getting fed? Yes. Do they need electricity? Yes. Do they need phones? They need all that stuff. But guess what? People still need to live, and people will live once they step out of those dark times. Their life will change and transform. And I believe that people like us who keep doing what we're doing help that transformation by doing what we do.
So that's part of, you know, like, you see the amount of racism that's going on in America, you know, you see the different status, you know, like we're losing most of the middle class, you know, due to the greed in Congress and all of the earmarks and all of the pockets lined. And, you know, you know, there's real simple things that we can ask ourselves, like, why does Congress have a different healthcare system than the American people that they're supposedly representing, right? So we can go through these different things and say, here's all these things that are wrong. Look at all these, you know, this, you know, lack of justice, lack of, you know, morals, lack of, you know, blah, blah, blah. But, like, you have to trust in the process that the universe and the earth have been here far, far longer than we could ever fathom. And there's always this balancing, and you're starting to see it with the weather. You know, the weather is fighting back against the way that we're destructing, you know, tearing apart the planet. And, you know, there will be a rebalancing, and the earth and God and universe, you know, however you want to view it, is bringing that. You're starting to see the awakenings. All of these people are waking up to food and to the healthcare system. People are starting to buck against vaccines. People are starting to, you know, fight the system and challenge the system and unplug from the system. And the system is experiencing it. It's feeling it, whether people realize it or not. There is a massive shift that's taking place, and sometimes it seems subtle and in the background, running in a, you know, loop mode. But then sometimes it's very up in your face, but it's always running, and it's definitely moving forward. You know, I mean, think about all of the filmmakers, the artists, the musicians over the last 10, 15, 20 years that have, you know, Food Incorporated, Health Matters, all of these things that are drilling home, you know, that a meat-based diet is not necessarily the healthiest, you know, diet out there. And you're starting to see irrefutable evidence that is proving time and time again that we need to be eating plants and that we need to be moving forward in healthier, conscious decisions and stop listening to what the media is telling us is healthy, because it's simply not healthy. So we're getting into these things where the awakening is pushing forward, you know, and it's really exciting And I know there's a lot of people out there going, let's get this party started. Like we, it takes two to make a thing go right. It's like we're ready for that celebration to move into the new time. And I think that we're getting to that tipping point, that whole thing with the 100th monkey kind of scenario where we're getting closer and closer to that tipping point. And I think that it's just all of us playing our part and trusting, letting go and trusting that the universe will fill those needs with the right people. Like you have like Kaepernick, taking a stand and making his for equality and for racial justice and, all these different things. And it caused a big stir, but look how much it made people question and it challenged people. And we're going to have more people like that. There's going to be more people that God and the universe is bringing forth to play these positions, and we have to let go that it's always us that's going to. How can we stand by? But it's not us; it's all of us, and we all have our positions. And if we play our positions, keep our head down, and keep moving forward on our path and our position and our mission, and everyone's doing that, we're going to see all the worker ants come together in that unity consciousness way, because we're all still connected. We all see it, but it's not exactly our mission, and if we were all just running around putting out fires and not sticking to our mission, we would never get anything done,
Yeah. Years ago, I was a district manager for a wireless company, and I had kiosks and stores in 3 counties. So whenever something would happen, I would leave where I was and go to wherever that thing that was happening and fix it. Finally, I just said, the heck with this. I told the guys, everybody that worked for me, make a decision. Make an executive decision. If it's the wrong decision, we'll fix it later. But just make a decision, because I couldn't keep doing that. I didn't have a cape, and I don't want a cape. So I know that in the collective consciousness that we talk about, there's a greater healing that's happening that we don't see, that we're not aware, that most people aren't aware of. But once we step into our consciousness, our awakening, it's very apparent. It is very apparent. Now, I want to remind everybody, because we're coming near the end of the show, you've been listening to Ian Morris and listening to Smile. And if you want to change your vibration, change your life, check out his sonic meditations, individual sound table sessions, sound healing CDs at www.listeningtosmile.com. Change your life. Change the way you look at things. Change the way you feel. A whole step inside by listening to something that isn't going to pound a wrong message in your brain. Because I got to tell you, Ian, there's some music I won't listen to anymore. I mean, I was corn-fed on punk rock and the 70s and the 60s and psychedelic and acid and all kinds of stuff. And I hit fast forward. I live my life in fast forward now when it comes to my driving. I don't want to hear that. I want to be lulled now. I just want to be lulled. I want to be held. Anyway, so Ian, I want to thank you for joining us. This has been a real pleasure, and I look forward to our work together, because I know you and I have some work that we're going to be doing when we get to it. I'll say it that way, because we've already talked about it. And, I want to thank you for all the hard work that you do and your part in the collective consciousness. And I, from the bottom of my heart, just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. I really enjoyed it, and I love your energy and all the work that you're doing with your groups and the people you're working with and the sacred music that you bring through the drums, and I thank you as well.
So tell our listeners how we can get a hold of you and how we can find you to get more of Listening to Smile or Awake magazine.
Yeah, so Listening to Smile has 2 Bandcamp pages, Listening to Smile and then the number 1.bandcamp.com. And that is a wellness series. It's got a yoga and movement meditations, and it's got some binaural beats and focus on more targeted, like sleep or, reducing anxiety or amplifying the heart. That's a wellness series. And then listeningtosmile.bandcamp.com has all the sonic meditation CDs that are on there. I think there's 25 or 26 CDs on there now. And all the CDs are $12, and you can just purchase them and download them right off the site there. And then I have more information on listeningtosmile.com. It has my story and ways to get in contact with me through email, and it has just information about what a sonic meditation is and sacred frequency. It's just got some information that you can read through on the website that's, not on the Bandcamp pages. So.
All right. So You've been listening to Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine with Anthony Rodriguez, Walking Crow, and my very special guest, Ian Morris from Listening to Smile. And I would like to say thank you to everybody who came and listened to us today. And we will talk to you in 2 weeks. Have a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday. I hope.
Hi, you've reached the High Fashion Hotline.
Hi, I make sure my family's always stylish, and all I want in return are those 3 little words.
Thank you, Mom.
Nope.
All on sale?
Yes.
Go to Old Navy.
Old Navy?
Yep, get 30% off your entire purchase at Old Navy's Thank You event.
30% off everything, even jeans, sweaters, and jackets?
30% off all of it, and Old Navy card members get 40% off at Old Navy and OldNavy.com.
I heard that.
High Fashion, Old Navy. Valid 10/11 to 10/15. Excludes in-store clearance, gift cards, register lane items, jewelry today only, and 2-day only deals. 40% off are subject to credit approval. See stores for details and exclusions.
Support for this podcast comes from NetSuite. NetSuite lets you see what's going on with your business in real time, from accounting to order management and much more. You've outgrown your business management software. Let NetSuite help. Go to netsuite.com/podcast to get your free guide and find out why NetSuite is a leading business management solution for growing companies. Get up and running fast with NetSuite.